So something a lot of people don't understand is the discrimination against Venezuelans in Latin America. And I'm going to be talking about this and kind of comparing it to the situation that we have in the United States. Since I've been in South America, I've seen a very, very direct correlation to this situation in the States to how Venezuelans are treated in literally like all the other countries in South America. With the pressure that having a lot of refugees and a lot of immigrants in need of a place to stay, the pressure that this put on other countries then created this, general distaste and this feeling of disrespect and discrimination against the community. This is very similar to what we've seen in America. It's become something that's grown to have a very large place in my heart, just the situation and, Venezuelan people as a whole. The first organization that I worked with for about 2 months in Ecuador was an organization for Venezuelan refugees, and seeing just the beauty, the community, and the life and the love that was within these families and within this organization, and also hearing the stories of some of the people involved in the organization, it made me realize one, how hard a lot of Venezuelans have had it, and definitely how hard it is within these countries and how hard everyone is just trying to survive. And then I'm also now dating and living with a Venezuelan immigrant whose family immigrated from Venezuela to Peru about 7 years ago. And with this, I'd like to introduce the first guest that I want to talk to about this, which is Angel, my boyfriend. Angel. Voy a decir un par de cosas en inglés y then traducir en español. Bueno?
Sí.
Okay, this is Angel. And I'm gonna ask him a couple questions about his time here in Peru and just kind of give you a sense of the things that I've learned to understand just from his story, and I'm gonna allow him to tell his story himself. So I'm gonna start by talking about this one moment that really made me understand and just gave me a whole new perspective on the life that he's had to live, and just gave me a whole new perspective because I realized how similar this situation and how similar he is to the immigrants that are in the United States, which some of the immigrants and like 200 immigrants have been deported that were immigrants from Venezuela. So it's like these are also the same thing that's happening in the States, but I'm just kind of seeing the perspective here in Peru, which has a very similar level of discrimination against Venezuelans. I remember when you got your job, and after looking and like literally walking along the streets looking to get a job, you were hired to a fish depot. And you were literally hired on the spot. So that first day you worked about 10 hours. Then you were going to be working 12-hour shifts, getting $6 per hour, which is a little less than $2. And your first shift was on your birthday. And I remember you told me this with a smile. So yo recuerdo cuando tú conseguiste tu trabajo, después buscando en la calle, tú conseguiste eso a un pescado lugar, ¿cómo se dice?
Se llama Terminal Pesquero.
Bueno, ok, so aquí tus días estaban 12 horas cada día, 6 horas cada hora, y tu primera día completo estaba en tu cumple. Y recuerdo cuando tú me dijiste estas cosas y tú me dijiste con una sonrisa. Y entonces my question is, you're similar to the immigrants that people have a lot of prejudice against in the States. And these people that work hard for more hours and less pay, and they do it with a smile. Tell me what you felt in that moment. And every day after work, what was going through your head in these situations and the things that you've had to endure being a Venezuelan and just trying to help yourself and your family. So, entonces, mi pregunta es, en los ojos de la gente en Estados Unidos, ¿tú eres similar a las inmigrantes que vienen de México, las personas que están en Estados Unidos en ahora, la gente en Estados Unidos tienen, problemas con los inmigrantes? Y la gente que trabajan por más horas y menos plata y que trabajan con una sonrisa y un buen corazón y una mentalidad positiva. Entonces, dime, ¿qué sentiste? Y después trabajo, ¿cómo tú podrías tener una sonrisa ante un cumple? ¿Qué pensaste, qué piensas sobre tu situación? ¿Cómo difícil es para conseguir trabajo, para ser un venezolano aquí en Perú?
Bueno, por ejemplo, con el tema del trabajo, ya muchas personas, por ejemplo, de aquí del país, Perú, no, no le pueden dar este trabajo a cualquier venezolano, porque es como en todos lugares, siempre hay personas malas, hay personas buenas, pero aquí como estamos en un país que no es nuestro, siempre, por ejemplo, el que hace uno, pagan todos, cuando de verdad no debería ser así. Y entonces ya muchos te piden muchas cosas que a mayoría de los nosotros venezolanos no tenemos y entonces no podemos conseguir trabajo fácilmente. Y cuando podemos conseguir un trabajo es cuando son de trabajo pesado, de 12 horas y esa es la única manera pues que podemos encontrar trabajo así, al menos que haya personas venezolanas que ya tienen tratos cercanos con personas de aquí dentro del país, que las ayuden a conseguir trabajo y cosas así. Por ejemplo, los trabajos que yo he podido tener es sobre que me han ayudado a conseguirlos, pues, porque me han recomendado, porque dicen soy una buena persona, esto, lo otro, y me han ayudado a entrar por eso. Entonces, ahí yo estaba buscando trabajo y justamente le digo a una persona que era venezolana, que estaba ahí en el lugar donde empecé a trabajar. Ellos me dijeron que debería preguntarle a tal persona y de ahí yo fui al lugar y esa persona también que estaba adentro era un venezolano. Y me dijo, si necesitábamos una persona y el trabajo es muy bueno en parte porque no te piden muchas cosas, solamente tu carnet de extranjería, que es nuestra cédula de identidad, y con eso basta. Eso es lo bueno. Y en ese trabajo encontré bastante venezolanos por esa razón, porque en esa empresa no te piden cosas que no tenemos. Y por eso que ahí encontré bastante venezolanos. Y solo me alegré un poco de haberle encontrado ese trabajo ahí porque de verdad lo necesitaba mucho. Y actualmente necesito tener que viajar otra vez nuevamente a mi país. Y por eso es que esa vez pasé el día de mi cumpleaños trabajando esas 12 horas completas.
Con todo de eso, ¿cómo, cómo puedes explicar like, tu mentalidad? Like, ¿cómo podrías tener una sonrisa después 12 horas con tu cumple? Like, ¿qué pensaste?
Este, sinceramente yo pensé que mi cumpleaños iba a ser tan solo porque tal vez lo iba a pasar trabajando, iba a mi casa y a dormir. Pero en mi caso pasó que estoy con una persona que amo tanto y al fin y al cabo mi cumpleaños no iba a ser tan solo porque estoy con la persona que de verdad adoro mucho. Entonces esa como que fue mi fuerza en ese día de mi cumpleaños. Mi fuerza fue trabajar y llegar a la casa para verla, abrir la puerta y comer con ella juntos.
And I think, I'm gonna speak. Voy a hablar en inglés por un
Ujú.
momento. Um, and I think for me, like the reason I wanted to sit down and just talk about this is because for me, this moment meant a lot for me. Like seeing him smile when he came back from work that day, and like I wanted to cry. Like I felt that, and it made me realize also like every day when he came back from work, he smelled like fish, like and I kind of realized like these are the workers. Like this person that I love very much, he's one of the workers that works so hard for so little. When I realized that for him, this was a good amount of pay, that really, broke my heart. He's such a beautiful soul. Like I just don't know if I would be able to keep a positive attitude the way he did, and that just made me realize like these are the people that are just working hard for the family. And they come back and they're just happy that they're able to provide for their families, provide for the people that they love, um, no matter what they're having to go through. And these are the people that are getting deported at car washes, at their work, at the immigration offices, at their homes. Now that I realize the reality of what it's like for an immigrant and, how beautiful of people and of a person he is, um, it's just something I really want to talk about. Okay, entonces, gracias por hablando. Y yeah.
Fue un gusto, a la orden.
I'm really hoping to do more of these, just talking to some of the people I've met, the organizers I work with, because I've met some amazing people. And it's opened my eyes to a lot of things that you don't learn in school. You don't learn this shit in school. People can't teach you empathy. You have to meet people to understand people. That's it. You can't learn about people through a keyhole in a classroom. You just can't. One of the things plaguing the US right now is that people think they know things about the lives they've never lived, about the places they've never been, about people that they've never met. And so I think one way that we can fix that is I at least want to try to introduce you guys to people that I've met. People have changed my life and made me realize how important empathy, understanding, just compassion in general, how important that is now more than ever. The one thing that you can do to help is to donate. You can donate to organizations that are working on the ground with the communities that are being affected. I was working with a nonprofit in Ecuador when the foreign aid freeze hit. And nobody's thinking about what happened to Ecuador when that happened. No one's really thinking about, there were isolated cases that hit the news, Ebola breakouts and things, a lot of, how it was going to affect people in Africa. In Ecuador, and even just the city I was in, there were organizations that have been working for over 15 years, providing crucial support to those local communities. And those organizations just simply shut down. The organization I was working with was one of the few that didn't have to cut programming because we were one of the few organizations that didn't completely 100% rely on US grants. Everything that's going on in the States right now is hitting other countries and affecting other communities in ways that you can't imagine. And I don't think, I wouldn't know how to care if I didn't know about it, if I wasn't here experiencing it. The mentality of just hatred and judgment and resent towards people that don't look like us, towards people that don't have the lives that we have. That mentality, that's going to last past the presidency. The two sides is deciding whether you think you're better than someone else and that you deserve more rights, more human rights than someone else, and deciding that you are just the same human being as everyone else in the world, no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, no matter what language you speak, no matter what religion you practice. There's so many things that every single individual person can do. Donate. You can donate to the Little Guy Foundation. We are working with locals in Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, with foundations that work with Venezuelans, that work with immigrants, that work with locals. Just keep talking about what's going on. I know there's so many things to distract us from that conversation, and I know we kind of seek those distractions right now, but with how little power it feels like we have, the one thing we can do is keep it in conversation. Donate, volunteer, protest, and just be educated. And if you really want to educate yourself on other communities, go there. Talk to the people. Learn another language. The second you decide to ignore the people whose voices you can't hear, the second you let the conversation die, that's the second the movement dies. That's the second you let the person in charge win or the people in power. The only thing we have right now is to make sure it is still relevant, to make sure it's still in the media. When you do hear about those things, instead of just trying to avoid it, always, and I understand it's a lot. Everything, everywhere, all at once, it's a lot. At this moment, I just want you to think about this issue. There are people that have to leave their countries all around the world. And right now, a place that people go to try to have a better life is the United States. A country's economic situation doesn't reflect the people in it. I've had conversations with so many local Venezuelans here in Peru. They didn't want to leave their country. I think that's another thing, Angel's going back to Venezuela because he loves that country. And it was never about, we just want to go somewhere else. It's not this, nobody wants that. To leave their home, their family, their friends. Now you can at least try to have a bit more empathy for the people that are getting dragged from their homes, from their families. The same people that would come home after a 12-hour shift where they're getting paid less than minimum wage, working the jobs you would never work. Now you know that those people will come home and smile just because they were happy to see their loved ones. These aren't criminals. They're not lazy. They're not lowlives. They're not freeloaders. They're working harder than I've ever worked in my life, just in a different way. Travel, create, and feel deeply. And always, always, always look out for the little guy.